Lyra walked through the soft, glowing forest, her feet barely making a sound on the mossy ground. The air shimmered with the light of the twin moons overhead, and the floating trees above her rustled like whispers of old secrets. It should have been a beautiful night, yet Lyra felt a deep loneliness that no starlight could chase away. She had grown up in a society where finding a life partner was not just a personal choice, but a matter of family honor and social respect. Yet, despite her gentle nature and sharp mind, she had been overlooked time and time again. At every social gathering, she watched others laugh and pair off. Her peers seemed to have an ease she could never achieve. They were admired for their strength, charm, or brilliance, while she was often seen as too quiet, too different, or too strange. Even when she tried to join in conversations, her ideas were dismissed, her thoughts brushed aside like leaves in the wind. The rejection had grown heavier over the years, until it became a part of her daily life. But tonight, as she wandered under the shimmering branches, she let herself simply breathe and imagine a different world, a world where someone could see her, not as an oddity, but as herself. Lyra's thoughts were interrupted by a soft hum in the distance. Curious, she followed the sound until she reached a small clearing. There, she saw a spaceship, its metal surface gleaming even under the dim light of the moons. She froze. Visitors were rare on her planet, and humans were even rarer. She had only read about them in old exploration records, their blue eyes and fair skin making them striking in stories. She had never expected to see one here. The ship's door opened slowly, and a figure stepped out. He was tall, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead, and he carried himself with a calm confidence that immediately drew Lyra's attention. Unlike the aliens she knew, he did not wear ceremonial robes or elaborate adornments. His clothes were simple, practical, made for movement and travel. But it was not his appearance that captured her curiosity, it was the way he looked at the forest around him, as if he were seeing it for the very first time, noticing every detail. Lyra felt a strange mixture of fear and fascination. Should she hide? Should she run? But something in his presence felt different. He seemed not to notice her at first, busy inspecting the plants and gently touching the glowing vines, marveling at their texture. There was no arrogance, no sense of superiority, only wonder. Gathering her courage, she stepped from the shadows. "Who are you?" she asked softly. The human turned toward her, and his eyes widened slightly, not in surprise, but in recognition, as if he had been waiting to see someone like her. "I'm Kale," he said. His voice was calm, but it carried warmth. "I come from a far planet. I'm exploring, learning." Lyra tilted her head, curious despite herself. "Exploring?" she repeated. "Why here? Why this forest?" Kale smiled faintly. "I've read about your world. I wanted to see it for myself. And I wanted to meet the people who live here." His gaze lingered on her, not as a curiosity, but as if he were trying to understand her. Lyra felt a flutter of surprise in her chest. No one had ever looked at her that way. I am Lyra," she said quietly. Her name felt strange on her lips, as if speaking it aloud made her real to someone else. "Lyra," Kale repeated, testing the sound of it. "It suits you." Lyra blinked. She had never been complimented like that before. The words were simple, but they carried a weight that made her heart lift slightly. She felt drawn to him, though she could not explain why. Over the next few hours, they walked through the forest together. Kale asked questions, not just about the plants and animals, but about the culture, the people, the traditions of her world. He listened carefully, never interrupting, never dismissing her thoughts. Lyra found herself speaking freely, telling him stories she had never shared with anyone else. She spoke of the festivals where everyone paired off, of the expectations placed upon her, and of the nights spent staring at the stars, wishing someone could see her as she truly was. Kale listened without judgment. When she finished, he smiled. "Your world is incredible," he said. "And you see it in ways others cannot. That is a gift, Lyra." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. No one had ever called her a gift before. Usually, she felt like a burden, someone who could be ignored or avoided, but Kale's words were different. They carried respect, admiration, and something she could not name: hope. As the moons climbed higher, they reached a small lake, its surface smooth and reflecting the shimmering light above. Lyra sat by the edge, dipping her fingers into the cool water. Kale joined her, careful not to crowd her space. They sat in silence for a while, watching the reflections dance and shimmer. "Do you ever feel alone?" Kale asked suddenly. Lyra nodded slowly. "All the time," she admitted. "Even when I'm surrounded by people, I feel separate, different, like I do not belong." Kale's expression softened. "I understand. On my world, I felt the same way sometimes. But being different doesn't mean you are unwanted. It just means you haven't found the right people yet." Lyra wanted to believe him. She wanted to hope that perhaps, just perhaps, someone could see her for who she truly was. But doubt lingered. People had rejected her for so long that hope felt fragile. Yet, something about Kale's presence made it easier to imagine. As the night deepened, they returned to the edge of the forest, near where Kale's ship was parked. He turned to her, eyes thoughtful. "I should continue my exploration soon," he said. "But I would like to see more of your world. With you. If you are willing." Lyra's heart raced. The idea of showing a human her home, someone who seemed to value her thoughts and presence, was thrilling and frightening all at once. She nodded, unable to speak for a moment. I would like that," she finally said. Kale smiled, and it was not a casual smile, but one that reached his eyes, warm and genuine. "Then, it is settled," he said. "Tomorrow, we will explore together, and I will learn more from you than I could from any book." Lyra watched as he stepped back into the ship. As the doors closed, she felt a strange mix of emotions: excitement, nervousness, and a tiny spark of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of something different, something real. She had never felt so alive, so seen, so recognized. The next morning, she returned to her daily life, attending the usual gatherings and meeting the usual people. But something had changed. She no longer felt invisible. She had a secret connection now. Someone who appreciated her for who she was, and that gave her strength. Even when her peers whispered and glanced at her with curiosity or doubt, she held her head high. She had found a spark of hope, and it made the world feel less lonely. As the day drew to a close, Lyra walked back to the forest, her heart beating faster with anticipation. Kale's ship hovered gently in the distance, waiting. When she approached, he stepped out again, holding a small device that could map the floating forests in detail. "Shall we begin?" he asked, his voice patient and kind. Lyra nodded, feeling a thrill of excitement she had not experienced in years. Together, they wandered deeper into the forest than she had ever gone before. She showed him hidden streams, glowing flowers, and trees that seemed to float in the air. Kale listened to every story, every detail, fascinated by her knowledge and insight. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Lyra realized something profound. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like an outsider. She felt seen, understood, and valued. And as she looked at Kale, standing there with awe and curiosity in his eyes, she whispered to herself, almost shyly, maybe someone really can see me for who I am." The stars above faded with the morning light, but a new kind of light had entered Lyra's life. One that no rejection, no social expectation, and no loneliness could extinguish. For the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope that her story was only beginning, and that perhaps, across the vast distances of space, she might find a connection stronger than anything her world had ever seen. And so, the lonely alien girl and the curious human began their journey together, not as outsiders, but as companions, discovering the beauty of a universe that had always been there, waiting for someone to truly notice it and for someone to notice each other. The day after their first encounter, Lyra woke before the twin suns had fully risen. Excitement and a little nervousness kept her awake. Today, she would spend the day with Kale, the human who had made her feel seen for the first time. She quickly dressed in her simple forest clothes, brushing her long, silvery hair into a braid that swayed as she moved. By the edge of the forest, Kale was already waiting. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Lyra. Ready for another adventure?" "Ah," Lyra nodded, feeling her heart race. "Yes. I want to show you the forest like no one else has seen it." Kale's eyes sparkled with genuine interest. "I can't wait to see it. I know I have much to learn from you." Together, they ventured deeper into the floating forest than Lyra had ever gone before. The air was cooler here, and tiny streams weaved through the moss-covered roots of massive floating trees. The ground beneath her feet felt soft and alive, as if the forest itself were breathing. Lyra pointed to a flower that shimmered with soft pink light. "This is called a luma bloom. It only glows at dawn and dusk. Few people ever see it." She knelt, showing Kale the delicate petals. "It's believed that the bloom reflects the thoughts of the forest spirits." Kale crouched beside her, careful not to touch the petals. "It's beautiful," he said softly. "It almost seems alive." Lyra smiled. "It is alive. Everything here is connected. The rivers, the trees, the winds, they all speak to each other. But most of my people only notice the surface. They don't listen." Kale nodded, his gaze attentive. "I want to learn to listen, Lyra. Teach me." And so, she did. She guided him along hidden paths, where tiny glowing insects danced, where vines hung like ribbons, and where crystal-clear pools reflected the sky in impossible patterns. She explained the songs of the forest birds, the way the trees bent slightly toward the streams, and the patterns that predicted weather changes. Kale absorbed everything with an eager curiosity, asking thoughtful questions and never interrupting. As the sun rose higher, they reached a hidden meadow surrounded by tall, shimmering reeds. Lyra paused, taking a deep breath. "This is one of my favorite places," she said. "It's quiet, peaceful. No one comes here unless they are really seeking something." Kale looked around, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's incredible," he said. "I've never seen anything like this. And yet, it feels familiar somehow. Like it's welcoming me." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. She had spent so many years feeling unseen and unwanted, and now someone from another world found her home extraordinary and comforting. "I'm glad you feel that way," she said softly. They spent hours exploring, talking, and sharing stories. Kale spoke of his own world, a planet of oceans, mountains, and cities with shining lights that never slept. Lyra listened in amazement, picturing places she had never imagined. She asked questions, trying to understand how life could be so different, yet still so similar. During a break, they sat by a small waterfall, its water cascading into a pool that glimmered with reflected sunlight. Lyra dipped her fingers in the cool water and laughed lightly when Kale did the same. "It's colder than it looks," she said. Kale grinned. "I don't mind. It's refreshing." They talked about more personal things as well. Kale asked about her family, her hopes, and her dreams. Lyra hesitated at first, not used to sharing her deepest thoughts. But Kale's gentle listening gave her courage. She told him about the social gatherings, the expectations, and the repeated rejections she faced. "It's not because you aren't wonderful," Kale said when she finished. "It's because they don't understand you. They don't see your heart, your mind. But I do." Lyra's eyes widened. She had never heard anyone say that so clearly. Most people saw her as strange or different. But Kale's words were kind, unwavering, and true. She felt a shiver of happiness run through her. "Thank you," she whispered. I've never felt like anyone saw me like that before." Kale reached out, just lightly, to touch her hand. Then let's make sure we both see the world, and each other clearly, he said. The hours passed like minutes as they continued their exploration. They climbed small floating hills that offered breathtaking views of the forest below. Lyra pointed out rare birds and unusual plant formations, sharing her knowledge with care. Kyle asked questions that made her think deeper about the world she had grown up in, and she realized that his curiosity was not just scientific, it was personal. He cared about understanding her perspective, not just the environment. As the suns began to set, casting a golden glow across the forest, Lyra and Kale found themselves back at the meadow. The sky was painted with shades of pink, purple, and orange, reflecting in the pools and streams around them. The glowing insects had returned, their tiny lights twinkling like stars brought to earth. Lyra felt a sense of calm she had never known. This human, who should have been a stranger, had become someone she trusted completely. His presence made the world feel safer, warmer, and more alive. She realized that her loneliness, while still present, had been replaced by hope. Hope that someone could truly understand her. Even across the vast distance between their worlds, Kale turned to her, his eyes reflecting the colors of the sky. Lyra, I know this is sudden. I know our worlds are very different. But I feel connected to you. You see the world in a way I never could alone. And I hope maybe you can see me the same way. Lyra's heart raced. She had imagined hearing these words for so long, never believing they could be real. And yet here they were, spoken by someone who genuinely cared. I think I do, she admitted. I've never felt this before, like someone finally understands me. Kale smiled softly. Then we'll explore it together. We'll learn together. And we'll see where this journey takes us. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of belonging that had nothing to do with societal expectations or family honor. It had to do with being understood, respected, and valued for who she truly was, and it was a feeling she never wanted to let go. Night fell, and the glowing forest lit up with its natural light. Lyra and Kale set up a small camp near the meadow. They shared a simple meal, laughing quietly at the unfamiliar flavors and textures of food from different worlds. Lyra explained the customs of her planet, the rituals for pairing life partners, and the ancient stories told under the twin moons. Kale listened, fascinated, asking questions that deepened her understanding as well. As they lay under the stars, Lyra whispered, I've always wanted to explore, to see the world differently, but I never imagined it would be with someone like you. Kale turned to her, his expression sincere. And I've always wanted to explore new worlds, but meeting you has made it more meaningful than I ever imagined. You make everything richer, Lyra. For a long moment, they just watched the stars together, each feeling the warmth of connection and trust growing between them. Lyra realized that the loneliness she had carried for so many years was slowly fading. She was beginning to understand that being different did not mean being unwanted. It only meant that the right person, the right friend, the right companion, had not come along yet. And now, that person had. The night deepened, and the sounds of the forest filled the air. Lyra felt safe, understood, and valued in a way she had never known. With Kale by her side, she could imagine exploring not just her forest, but the galaxy itself. Together, they could learn, grow, and discover worlds beyond imagination. And as sleep finally came to her, Lyra's heart was lighter, her spirit braver, and her hope stronger than it had ever been. She had met someone who saw her, not for what society expected her to be, but for who she truly was, and that was a gift she would never take for granted. Lyra returned to her daily life with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The forest had shown her a world of beauty, and Kale's presence had ignited a spark of hope within her heart. But the reality of her society remained. Even though she had begun to feel seen, her peers and family continued their whispers, their eyes following her with curiosity, suspicion, and sometimes, disapproval. At the city's central plaza, she noticed the subtle glances and hushed conversations. Her peers, dressed in elaborate robes of ceremony, were preparing for the annual social festival. a time when young adults were expected to display their talents, wisdom, and charm in hopes of finding a life partner. This festival was more than tradition. It was a test of social standing, intelligence, and adaptability. Lyra had participated before, but she had always been ignored, passed over for brighter, stronger, or more conventional candidates. Today, the whispers seemed louder. She spends too much time wandering the forests. One voice murmured. And who is that human? Another added. Eyes narrowing, Lyra felt the familiar sting of isolation, but deep inside, she remembered Kale's words from the forest. That being different did not make her unwanted. She straightened her back, determined not to let the judgment of others dim her spirit. The festival began with ceremonial dances and displays of skill. Aliens demonstrated their mastery over energy patterns, intricate arts, and intellectual games. Lyra watched from the side, her heart heavy, as potential partners paired off. She saw familiar faces turn away from her with polite smiles, and she wondered if this year would be the same as all the others. Just as she was about to leave, she felt a hand lightly touch her shoulder. Turning, she saw Kale, standing at the edge of the plaza with a curious yet calm expression. Lyra, he said softly, may I join you? Her heart leapt. Seeing him here, in the midst of her world, felt like a bridge between the isolation she had always known and the hope she now carried. She nodded. Yes, she whispered. Kale walked beside her, observing the festival with the same wonder he had shown in the forest. This is fascinating, he said. So many rules, so many traditions. But there is also beauty in them, isn't there? Lyra smiled faintly. Yes, there is. But sometimes it feels like a trap. If you are not what they expect, you are ignored. Or worse, judged. Kale turned to her, his eyes steady. Then let them judge. You do not need to change for them, Lyra. You are remarkable as you are. Those words gave her strength. She walked through the plaza with him, answering questions and sharing small insights about her world. Kale's presence made her feel visible and respected. And slowly, whispers of disapproval began to shift into curiosity. The other young adults could see that she had someone who valued her in a way they could not. Despite the warmth Kale gave her, challenges soon appeared. Lyra's family expressed concern over her growing bond with a human. He is not from our world, her mother said quietly, though her tone carried worry. How can he understand our ways? How can he be a suitable companion? Lyra's father looked troubled as well. Humans are unpredictable. We do not know their customs. You risk dishonor if you are seen with him in public too openly. Lyra's heart sank slightly. She understood their concern. They were thinking of tradition, of safety, of expectations, but their words felt like chains around the hope she had just found. Kale, sensing her hesitation, took her hand lightly. I respect your family's concerns, he said gently. But I came here because I wanted to understand your world, and to understand you. That will not change. With Kale by her side, Lyra felt courage grow within her. She could not let fear of judgment erase what felt real and true. Together, they navigated the festival, participating in demonstrations and sharing insights. Lyra's knowledge of her world's flora, fauna, and natural energy patterns impressed even the elders. They had always underestimated her because she did not conform to their expectations of charm or strength. Now, in the presence of someone who valued her for her mind and heart, she realized her uniqueness was her greatest strength. But not all reactions were positive. A group of young adults approached, their faces set in expressions of jealousy and suspicion. Why is she with that human? One asked. He does not belong here. He cannot understand her, or our world. Kale stepped forward, calm and composed. I may not be from this world, but I respect it, and I respect Lyra, he said. I do not seek to replace your traditions. I only seek to understand, to learn, and to stand by someone who has shown me the beauty of her world. The group stared at him, silence hanging heavily in the air. No one had spoken to them so directly, so respectfully, yet with such authority. Slowly, they stepped back, unsure how to respond. Lyra felt a surge of pride. She realized that Kale's presence not only gave her courage, but also challenged her society's narrow perspective. As the festival reached its peak, it came time for the final ceremony. Traditionally, each young adult would choose a companion, symbolizing readiness to form a lifelong partnership. Lyra's peers expected her to select one of the usual candidates, someone deemed suitable by her family and social standing. But she knew she could not. Her heart no longer sought approval from those who could not see her for who she truly was. Kale, standing beside her, seemed to sense her thoughts. "Do what feels right, Lyra," he said softly. "Do not follow tradition if it does not honor who you are." Lyra took a deep breath and stepped forward. She addressed the crowd, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "I have always followed the expectations of others," she said. "I have been told who I should be and who I should choose. But I have met someone who sees me for who I am, not for my status, my appearance, or my conformity. Someone who values my mind, my heart, and my spirit." A hush fell over the plaza. The elders watched carefully, unsure how to respond. Lyra turned to Kale, who smiled reassuringly. "I ask him," she continued, "to join me, not because it is expected, but because it is right." Kale stepped forward, his eyes on hers. "Lyra, I would be honored to explore this world, and many others with you. Will you come with me?" The plaza seemed to hold its breath. Lyra's peers looked shocked, her family worried, and the elders unsure. And yet, in that moment, she knew the answer. "Yes," she said firmly, her voice carrying through the plaza. "I will go with you." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some whispered in disapproval, others in surprise. But Lyra did not care. She felt a freedom she had never known, a joy that made her chest feel lighter than air. She had chosen her own path, guided by understanding, respect, and the connection she shared with KL. Her family approached slowly. Her mother's expression softened, though worry lingered. "Lyra, are you certain?" she asked. Lyra nodded. "I am. He respects me, he values me, and he has shown me that being different is not a weakness." Her father stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Then go," he said quietly. "Follow your heart. Perhaps this is the lesson we needed to learn as well." With their blessing, Lyra and Kale left the plaza. The whispers continued behind them, but they no longer mattered. They walked hand in hand through the streets, past the floating gardens and crystal fountains, toward the edge of the city where Kale's ship awaited. As the ship lifted off, carrying them above the city, Lyra looked down at the world she had always called home. She saw it differently now. She saw its beauty, its strength, and its traditions. But she also saw that her life was not limited by expectation. She could chart her own course, guided by understanding, compassion, and connection. Kale turned to her, smiling. "We are ready," he said. "The universe awaits." Lyra leaned against him, feeling the gentle hum of the ship beneath her. For the first time, she felt completely alive. She had faced the judgment, the fear, and the doubt, and she had chosen courage. She had chosen to follow her heart, to honor who she truly was, and in doing so, she had discovered something far greater than acceptance. She had discovered love, partnership, and a bond that transcended worlds. As the stars stretched out before them, Lyra whispered quietly, "This is only the beginning." Kyle nodded, eyes fixed on the infinite horizon. "Yes, and together, we will explore it all." For the first time, Lyra realized that being different was not a curse. It was a gift. And with Kale by her side, she could embrace it fully, stepping into a future filled with possibility, adventure, and the certainty that someone truly understood her. the ship soared higher into the cosmos, leaving the familiar world behind. And as the planets and stars unfolded before them, Lyra and Kale knew that whatever challenges awaited, they would face them together. Their connection had already bridged worlds, and it would continue to grow stronger with each passing moment. For Lyra, the lonely alien girl who had once whispered to herself under the twin moons, the universe had finally opened its arms. And in that vast expanse, she had found someone who saw her, valued her, and would walk beside her through every adventure yet to come. The stars stretched endlessly before them as Kale's ship glided silently through space. Lyra pressed her hand against the cool metal of the cabin, staring out at the endless universe. She had never imagined that one day she would leave her home planet, soaring among the stars with someone who understood her completely. A strange mixture of excitement and calm filled her chest. For the first time, she felt truly free. Kale noticed her quiet awe and came to stand beside her. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he asked. Lyra nodded. "It is, more than I ever imagined. I thought I knew what the universe was like, but this is different, vast, endless, full of possibilities." Kale smiled. "And we have all of it to explore." Together, Lyra felt her heart lift. She had faced loneliness, judgment, and doubt. And now, side by side with Kale, the universe felt like a canvas, waiting for them to paint their story. Their first destination was a small, uncharted planet, rich with forests and lakes, not unlike Lyra's homeworld but with its own unique life forms. As they landed, Lyra marveled at the similarities and differences. The trees were taller, their leaves shaped differently, and the rivers reflected the sunlight in strange, sparkling patterns. Yet beneath the alien beauty, she recognized the same rhythms of life she had always loved, the interconnectedness, the gentle harmony that spoke to her heart. Kale handed her a small scanning device. "I want you to teach me everything," he said. "I trust your eyes, your knowledge, your instincts. Lead the way." Lyra smiled, feeling a surge of pride. She led him through the alien forest, showing him plants that glowed faintly at night and flowers that opened only when touched by the wind. She pointed out creatures with shimmering wings and small, clever animals that hid among the rocks. Kale observed everything with the same curiosity he had shown back on her home planet, asking questions that made her think deeper about her own world. As the day passed, Lyra realized that this exploration was not just about discovering new planets, it was about discovering herself. She had spent so many years trying to fit expectations that were never meant for her. Now, she realized her knowledge, her curiosity, and her kindness were not just valuable, they were remarkable. And Kale's admiration reminded her that her worth was not determined by others' opinions. During a quiet moment near a crystal-clear lake, Kale looked at her thoughtfully. "Lyra, do you realize what we're doing? Most people never get a chance to see worlds like this, to understand life so completely. And yet, here we are, together, learning, sharing, exploring. It feels special." Lyra felt warmth spread through her chest. "It is special," she agreed. "And it's because we see each other, not just the world. You value what I know, and I value what you bring. Together, it makes everything richer." Kale reached out and held her hand. "Then we will keep going," he said. "No matter how far, no matter what we encounter." Together, night fell, and the alien world was bathed in the soft light of twin moons. The air was alive with the hum of insects, the rustle of trees, and the calls of distant creatures. Lyra felt at peace, lying on the soft grass beside Kale. For the first time in her life, she had no need to hide her thoughts. No need to hide her heart. She had found someone who truly saw her, who valued her, and who shared her love for exploration and discovery. The next day brought new adventures. They discovered a canyon filled with glowing crystals that chimed softly when touched by the wind. Lyra guided Kale through the twisting paths, explaining the natural formations and the subtle energy that pulsed through the stones. Kale listened intently, often stopping to take careful notes. but never letting the scientific curiosity overshadow the connection between them. "You have a gift," Kale said quietly. "You see the world in ways no one else does, and you teach me to see it too. I've never met anyone like you, Lyra." Lyra felt a soft blush rise to her cheeks. I never thought of it as a gift before. I just notice things." "You notice things that matter," Kale said firmly. "And that makes you extraordinary." Their journey continued through asteroid belts, past nebulae that shimmered in every color of the spectrum, and around planets with rings so vast they seemed to touch the horizon. Each new world brought challenges, hostile terrain, unpredictable weather, and strange life forms, but together, they navigated everything with trust and teamwork. Lyra discovered that she was braver than she had ever known, and Kale learned that understanding and patience could overcome even the most alien of challenges. One evening, as they orbited a planet with a vast ocean, Lyra watched the water below reflect the light of distant stars. "I never thought I would leave my world," she said softly. "And yet, I feel more connected to it than ever. I see it with new eyes." Kale nodded. "And I see it through your eyes. You've taught me more than any book or record ever could. You've taught me to appreciate life, to understand its depth, its complexity, its beauty." Lyra felt tears prick at her eyes, not of sadness, but of joy. For the first time, she felt fully herself, seen and understood. She realized that love and friendship were not limited by species, by planets, or by expectations. They were built on trust, respect, and shared experiences, and that was exactly what she had found with Kale. Their adventures also brought them into contact with new civilizations. On one planet, they met a community of intelligent beings who communicated through light patterns and melodic tones. Lyra quickly learned to interpret their signals, helping Kale understand their culture and form peaceful connections. On another world, they helped resolve a conflict between two species vying for the same resources, using empathy, strategy, and careful observation to mediate the situation. Through each challenge, Lyra's confidence grew. She realized that her differences, her knowledge, her gentle nature, her curiosity were not weaknesses, but strengths. Kale's presence amplified that strength, encouraging her to trust herself and her instincts. As months passed, their bond deepened. They laughed together, learned together, and supported each other through moments of fear and uncertainty. Lyra discovered that love could be patient and kind, not just dramatic or fleeting. And Kale discovered that trust and understanding could bridge even the greatest distances. One day, as they floated above a planet with swirling storms of green and gold, Kale turned to her. "Lyra, we've seen so much, learned so much, but I want to ask you something." Lyra looked at him, curious. "What is it?" Kale took a deep breath. "Will you continue this journey with me? Not just as my companion, but as my partner in every way? Not because it's expected, not because it's tradition, but because we value each other and the path we've chosen together?" Lyra felt her heart swell. She remembered the years of loneliness, the rejection, and the feeling of being unseen. And now, standing among the stars, with the human who had shown her the universe in a new light, she realized that she had found what she had always been searching for. "Yes," she said firmly, smiling through tears. "Yes, I will." Kale's smile was radiant, and he reached out to hold her hand, their fingers intertwining with ease. Together, they looked out at the endless stars, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as equals, as companions, as partners. Lyra whispered softly to herself, remembering the lonely nights under the twin moons of her home planet. "I finally found a home, with someone who sees me." Kale leaned closer. "And this home isn't just a place, it's everywhere we go, as long as we are together." As their ship glided silently through the cosmos, Lyra felt a profound peace. She had left behind the fear, the judgment, and the loneliness of her old world. She had embraced her true self, and in doing so, she had discovered love, respect, and partnership beyond imagination. The universe stretched before them, vast and unknown. But Lyra no longer felt small or uncertain. With KL by her side, she could explore every world, learn every secret, and experience every wonder. Their journey was only beginning, but it was theirs to share, filled with discovery, trust, and endless possibility. And so, the alien girl who had once whispered her loneliness into the night skies had found her place in the universe, not because anyone had chosen it for her, but because she had chosen herself and someone who truly valued her. Together, they would navigate the stars, hearts intertwined, spirits brave, and dreams unlimited. The cosmos welcomed them, and in return, they embraced it fully, knowing that the bond they had formed was stronger than any distance, any challenge, and any expectation. For Lyra, the journey of discovery had become the journey of life itself, shared with someone who had seen her in all her light and shadow, and loved her all the more for it.